Welcome to the fish room. So today there's a few things I want to do here in order to kind of get this whole room looking complete. So you can see the wall behind me is painted white. We've got that wall painted white as well. But then we've got that wall painted white, but these two walls over there are not painted white. So I've got to finish painting the walls and this wall too. It's gonna be quite a process. I think I'm gonna take 2 days, today and tomorrow, because I want to put 2 coats of paint on it. With just 1 coat of paint, the wood, what do you call this? The patterning, the wood grain will show through that paint. So you need to go with 2 coats, and then it'll start to look better. It's not the best looking wall, but I don't mind it. It looks really nice once it's all painted white, and I really like the look of this wood too. That's why I was kind of leaving it to see like which I like better. I do prefer the white. It just looks cleaner, and if I were to have a garage, not a fish room, but just a garage with all these tools and maybe a place to store my bikes and something like that, then I don't mind this look. But because this is a fish room, I want it to look neat and tidy and aesthetically pleasing. I want to paint it white, so that's what I'm going to start off with. And yeah, let's go to timeline. Oh wait, but after that I want to set this tank up. So right now I've got some angelfish in here and some Amazon swords and a bunch of frogbit. This frogbit has been growing like crazy. The weird thing is that this tank doesn't have any CO2. It's got a light. It's not the strongest light, but when I had this plant in a tank running with CO2, it didn't grow that fast. But once I put it in a tank without CO2, look at these angelfish. This plant just started taking off and sending out new babies, and just, yeah, it's just a super fast growing plant, and I recommend this if you're not using CO2. But look how beautiful this plant is, this frogbit. So yeah, I want to kind of rescape this tank. Not rescape, I mean, right now it's not even scaped at all. It's just a tank filled with some plants and sand at the bottom. And you can even see blue-green algae forming. So we're going to take everything out and set up a new tank, and I'm also going to use some driftwood in here, and I'm quite excited to set this tank up because there's a plant that I'm really excited about that we're going to add into this tank. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's go to time-lapse and start painting the walls. Alright, it's a mess in here. I've got the walls painted though. The first coat is done, and I'm loving the way this thing looks. Man, it's amazing. This room is a mess though. I've got to start cleaning it up, and I really want to set this tank up. And one more thing I want to say is that I lost some of the footage from me painting the walls, so you might have seen you might have not seen the whole process, but there still is another coat to paint. It's looking so good though. It is dried, but before I give it the second coat, I'm gonna start setting this tank up, because if I don't, I'm never gonna set this tank up. So what I want to do is I want to move these angelfish out, and the only tank I've got to place them in is the tank next door, and this tank houses my little 𝗶𝘲𝘀𝗀𝘀 rainbow fish, or the 𝗶𝘲𝘀𝘀. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm gonna move them in there temporarily, maybe for 1 or 2 days. While I set this tank up. And once we get this tank all set up and stable, we can move the angelfish back into that tank, and it's gonna look amazing. I can't wait, so let's get started. Alright, so first thing is to get these guys out. Alright, so we've got all the fish out. I've got most of the floating plants out, all the frogbit. I just transferred it into that tank over there. Now I'm going to take out the sand. You can see the sand is really dirty. There's a lot of muck build up on it. It's a really thin layer of sand though, and you can also see blue-green algae. So I'm gonna siphon all this out, and I'm gonna wash it, and we'll be able to use it for a future tank. Yeah, sometime in the future. But for this new scape that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using gravel, which you'll see later. So let me go ahead and siphon all this sand out, and then we'll be ready to set up the new tank. Alright, so the tank is basically emptied right now. There's still a little bit of water, but that's really no big deal because now we're going to put gravel in here. But before I put the gravel in, I want to make this tank almost an identical copy of that tank. And underneath the substrate of that tank, I've got some base layer fertilizing substrate, which is this thing right here. So I've been using this product from this company in Japan called 𝗲𝗾𝗾𝗀𝗀𝘀, and yeah, it's just nutrients, extra nutrients, so that plants will grow better. So I'm gonna put this in first before I put the gravel. So I probably should have drained out all the water because some of this base fertilizing substrate is floating, which you can see right here, which isn't really good. But I'm gonna cap it with gravel right now, so I think it should be all okay. And I start by covering the front so that we don't get any of this unsightly thing showing through the glass. So we only see the gravel. And look how clean this is looking. So good. Now it's time to finally start the hardscape process. So laying out the, I don't know what you call it, aquascaping. So I'm only going to be using these 2 pieces of driftwood. It's going to be a very simple scape. I've already got an idea of what I want to do. So yeah, I'm just going to place them into, it's not really an aquascape, it's just placing driftwood into a tank. But I don't know, this is the fun part. Very simple, just 2 pieces, that and that. And I really like this look. I wanted an open space in the middle because we're going to be putting this plant in. It's right here, this tiger lotus. It's not exactly a tiger lotus. Well, it is, but it's a wild type. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out. And you can see the leaves are melting a little bit because I've just been leaving it floating for the past 2 days. So we really got to get it planted in today. So let's get this thing planted and filled up. And just like that, it's the next day. It's a rainy day today, kind of gloomy out there. But the good thing is that the walls have been painted and it looks so good. That wall over there, that's like, I don't know what you call it, but it's kind of a fake wall. And there's a bathroom in there actually that I'll show you guys what the inside looks like in the future. But for today, that's just staying like that. I do want to change that out in the future, but it's not on the priority list right now. So we got the walls painted. There's still some areas that I need to go over, like these, the inside parts. around the doors and windows and stuff. So I'm gonna do that later on. The tank has been set up. It's looking amazing. You can see there's only 2 different types of plants. There's the lotus that I put in, and it's starting to float up. You can see the roots are held in, but the leaves are so buoyant, or there's so much oxygen bubbles stuck on them, and it just wants to float up. So I gotta put more gravel in there and kind of secure that in place so it doesn't actually float up to the top. And then in the back, I've got some Echinodoros uruguayensis. I trimmed off all the bad leaves, and you can see it looks so amazing. I love Echinodoros, especially the types with the dark green, beautiful leaves. I've got 2 more in this tank over here, and you can see my angelfish are doing quite good. I think they prefer this tank over this tank because this tank is warmer. I've got a lid on it so the water stays warmer. It's winter season now. This room, I keep the temperature set at 23 degrees Celsius, and the tanks, if there's no lid on, it's about 20 degrees Celsius, which is quite cold for angelfish. And this tank here is about 23, 24 degrees Celsius, so it's holding heat in quite well. When I move the angelfish back into this tank, I'm definitely going to put a heater in because I know they much prefer having warmer water, so I'll definitely be doing that. I'm also going to be changing the filter to canister filter, which I've got right here. But I'm currently waiting on the hosing. I just ordered some hosing on Amazon yesterday, and it's supposed to arrive today, so I'm waiting for that. And I also do want to inject some CO2 into this aquarium because some of these plants, well, I don't think they need CO2, but they'll do much better with CO2. And I do want to plant more in this tank. I just don't know what plants to add in yet. Maybe you guys can leave some suggestions in the comment down below to what plant you would add into this tank. So I've left some space in the back corners and in the foreground, so let me know what you would put. I really want to put some easier types of plants because I'm gonna have angelfish in there and I don't want to put so much CO2. I just want it to be a low maintenance and easy tank, so maybe crypts. Yeah, that's all I can think of, cryptocoryns. But then, oh yeah, and you might be thinking, why didn't I go with a soil substrate and use sand and kind of make it look more exciting, a more powerful aquascape? The reason why I like this gravel tanks setup is because I want to keep these 2 tanks going for the long run. I want to keep these 2 tanks going for at least 10 years, maybe even more if possible. So having a gravel substrate is good for that. That's why I also put some nutrients in the bottom so that the plants can have all the nutrients throughout all those years, and it'll benefit them, it'll support them. And yeah, I just like this. One of my neighbors here who used to run a fish store also has these gravel setups. He does client tanks and he does it all gravel, and the plants just grow so well in those tanks and they last for so long. One of his tanks, I'll put a video up right here, but that tank has been going for over 30 years. Just a gravel substrate with a little bit of CO2. Doesn't even put any like nutrients and fertilizers. It's just CO2, gravel, and fish food. Yeah, that's all. So, got to turn the light on for this thing. The fish room now is like super messy, and I know you guys hate it when I say it's super messy, but it just is right now, and I can live with that fact because I'm gonna clean it up. And I think every video I make, I need to set a goal for next week. So like last week, I said I wanted to paint the walls, and I did that for today's video. So for next week, this room, I'm going to clean it up. That's the goal for next week. So make sure you guys stay tuned and see how this fish room transforms over the next weeks. And very soon I'll be able to do a fish room tour of this place. It's gonna happen so soon. I can't wait for that, and I'm so excited. It's gonna be amazing. Also, I want to thank everyone for the kind comments in the last video. There were also some like kind of harsh comments, but I don't mind that. I don't mind criticism. It just motivates me, and I'm motivated. I feel fresh. We're gonna build this fish room together, and it's gonna be amazing. So thank you. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. This tank here is starting to do so much better, and here is another Echinodoros that I really like. The greens on this plant is so amazing. It's so different compared to all the other plants, but this is Echinodoros 𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗀, and it looks so good. And then I've got another similar type right here, just the green colors, just incredible. I also had to add a rock on top of this driftwood because this one just started floating up. This one, however, was okay. Don't know why that is. Why this one floats, why this one doesn't float. I'm not sure, but yes, I had to put a rock on that. We've also got some floating plants. Well, they're not floating plants, but they're just a philodendron type and a pothos. In the future, I'll make a video on what type of plants I use for immersed growth above the tanks. But yeah, for now I've just got this. I've got some over there as well, but it's fun to experiment with stuff like this.